The lights inside the studio had barely warmed the cameras when the energy shifted. You could feel it, that strange Hollywood tension when comedy crosses into politics and something raw is about to go down. It was supposed to be just another late-night segment. Jack Black, known for his chaotic charm and eyebrow-wiggling antics, had been booked on short notice to spice up a political comedy segment that had lost steam in recent weeks. But what no one in the room realized, not the host, not the producers, not even the crowd packed into the velvet seats with their free drink tickets, was that Jack wasn't just there to make jokes. He came with something personal, something reckless. And if you haven't seen the clip yet, buckle up, because what he said about Trump and worse Melania wasn't just another snarky celebrity jab. It was a theatrical meltdown disguised as satire, and it left everyone wondering just how far these people are willing to go just for applause. Before we take you into the firestorm, hit that like button, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, whether it's a red state, a blue city, or a quiet corner of your living room, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss how this all explodes, because trust me, you're going to want to see what happened when Karoline Leavitt walked into this mess like a quiet storm, with no cue cards, no Hollywood applause, and nothing to lose. But first, we rewind just a few minutes before the verbal earthquake. The studio was dimmed, the on-air sign flashed red, and the host leaned back with a smirk as he welcomed a true comedy icon, a living legend, the king of chaos himself, Jack Black. Cue the thunderous applause. Jack strolled out like a rock god turned court jester, Hawaiian shirt unbuttoned halfway, sunglasses indoors, waving at the crowd like a drunk uncle at Thanksgiving dinner. People laughed before he even spoke. That's how much charm he had on credit. He sat down, cracked a joke about how politics made his brain hurt, and then, as if flipping a sinister switch, launched into a bizarre impromptu roast that started with Trump and ended with something so jaw-droppingly disrespectful about Melania that even the studio laughter sounded nervous. I mean, come on. He cackled, Trump looks like a haunted creamsicle and talks like a vending machine having a seizure, and Melania, oh man, blink twice if you need help. He turned toward the camera, eyes wide, waving like he was sending an SOS. Does anyone believe she married him for love? Please, I've seen better chemistry in gas station hot dogs. The crowd gasped, then cracked up, unsure whether they were laughing or cringing. The perfect reaction cocktail for Hollywood. But Jack wasn't done, not even close. He leaned forward like he was delivering a confession, voice dropping an octave like a priest in a pulpit. Trump doesn't need votes, he growled. He needs a therapist, a babysitter, and maybe a priest for that tan alone. And Melania, don't even get me started. She looks like someone asked an AI to generate a sad first lady who hates democracy but loves shopping. The crowd shrieked with laughter, but you could feel the discomfort under it, like everyone was wondering if this had gone from comedy to cruelty without warning. And that's exactly when things started shifting. See, in that studio across the screen, millions watched the clip go viral, thinking it was just another celebrity roasting a politician. But somewhere else, quietly watching and not smiling, was Karoline Leavitt. And what none of them knew yet, not Jack, not the host, not the writers behind the curtain feeding the teleprompter with gleeful venom, was that Karoline had just been booked to appear the next night, and she wasn't coming to smile, she wasn't coming to take the high road, she was coming to clean the floor with Jack Black's career, and do it without raising her voice. But before we get there, before we show you the moment she took that mic and turned late night TV into a courtroom of reckoning, you have to see just how deep the mockery went, because this wasn't just comedy, this was personal. And when Karoline steps on that stage, you'll see exactly what happens when someone crosses the wrong line with the wrong woman. Stay tuned, what comes next might just be the most unexpected beatdown in late-night history. Backstage the next evening, under the same fluorescent glow of network makeup, mirrors, and the soft chaos of studio crew chatter, Karoline Leavitt sat still in her chair, perfectly calm in a space vibrating with noise. A hairstylist buzzed around her with a curling wand while a makeup artist dabbed powder on her cheek, but Karoline's eyes were fixed on a single iPad screen propped on the counter in front of her, looping Jack Black's roast like a countdown to war. The clip played again, Jack making his goofy rockstar faces, waving at the camera, slinging Melania insults like he was at an open mic night in hell. Haunted creamsicle, he'd said of Trump, mail order mannequin for Melania. She didn't blink. This wasn't her first roast, but it was the first time someone dragged the first lady and president with the kind of smug glee usually reserved for drunk bar hecklers, and then had the nerve to call it edgy comedy. Karoline didn't take offense, she took notes. She wasn't seething, she was calculating. Across the room, a junior producer handed her a water bottle and nervously whispered, "They've told us to keep it light, like, you know, playful." Karoline smiled, the kind of smile you see before lightning hits. "Sure," she said, light. What the network didn't realize was that this wasn't just about politics. Jack Black had stepped out of his lane and into hers, dragging real people with names, faith, families, and now he'd have to answer to someone who didn't need an Oscar to go viral. As they counted her down to stage time, she handed the iPad to her assistant. "Send it to the producers, tell them I want it cued when I say the word mannequin." The assistant blinked. "Seriously?" Karoline nodded. "Trust me." And that's the thing about Karoline Leavitt, people always mistake her quiet for soft, but soft doesn't shatter Hollywood egos, precision does. Out on stage, the crowd was warmed up, the lights blazing, the band playing its upbeat, overly rehearsed tune to keep the audience smiling. The host stepped up, grin plastered on his face like a man trying to ignore the fire he'd accidentally started. "We've got a big one tonight, folks," he said, voice almost cracking. "White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt and I have a feeling it's about to get spicy." The crowd chuckled, unsure whether to clap or brace themselves. Then Karoline walked out, black heels sharp as her tone, deep red dress tailored like armor, every step calculated and quiet. In the room shifted, no guitar riffs, no over-the-top entrances, just a calm, measured presence. That made Jack's chaos from the night before look like a toddler tantrum. She took her seat opposite the host, nodded politely to the crowd, and then, without missing a beat, turned her gaze straight to the camera. Last night, she began, her voice smooth, low, and steady. America watched a man known for his jokes become one. The crowd murmured, unsure if it was a setup or a punchline. Karoline continued, her smile poised deadly. He mocked Melania's accent, compared Trump to a vending machine having a seizure, and called me a puppet. Funny thing is, puppets usually don't come with their own fire. She turned to the host. Do you mind? The screen behind them lit up instantly. Jack's segment from the night before, the clip jumping right to the line, Melania, blink twice if you need help. Karoline watched the crowd react, the laughter, the awkward gasp, the same split as the night before, and waited. Then she spoke again, still seated, hands folded in her lap. We have comedians in this country who used to know where the line was, the line between satire and sickness. What we saw last night wasn't a joke, it was a man auditioning to be the opening act at a CNN roast of Christianity, marriage in the South. And Jack, if you're watching, don't worry, I brought a few jokes too. The host shifted uncomfortably in his chair, sensing what was coming but unable to stop it. Karoline leaned in just slightly. Jack says Trump is a creamsicle that's rich, coming from a man who spent 30 years melting under stage lights, playing himself in different costumes, he says. Melania looks AI generated maybe, but if she's AI, he's Clippy, that weird paper clip from Microsoft Word that pops up and says looks like you're trying to stay relevant. Laughter erupted sharp and sudden. The mega crowd in the audience roared. A few stunned liberals blinked hard, caught between denial and admiration. Karoline sat back, calm as ever. He says, I'm a puppet, that I read Trump scripts, but Jack, you've spent your whole career living off someone else's script, and unlike you, I don't need a laugh track to make people listen. The host tried to jump in, but Karoline wasn't finished. You mocked Melania for being elegant, you mocked Trump for praying, you mocked me for being young. Here's what you didn't mock: the millions of Americans who actually believe in something, who don't need to scream in Hollywood dialect to feel heard, who still think marriage is sacred, who still stand when the flag is raised, who still believe faith is not something to laugh at, it's something to live by. The room was dead quiet now. All that late night snark replaced by stunned silence. Karoline didn't raise her voice, she didn't shout, she just told the truth, and it hurt. Jack Black wasn't in the studio that night, but his team was, and as they watched from the green room, mouths slightly open, they realized something chilling. Their guy had poked the wrong bear. And Karoline, she didn't come for applause, she came to remind them that there are still lines in this country you don't cross without consequences. The host looked like he wanted to cut to commercial, but Karoline turned back to the camera. And one last thing, Jack, you asked if Melania blinked twice, she didn't, but America just did. The screen cut to black and the studio lost its mind within minutes of Karoline's closing line. She didn't blink, but America just did. The internet combusted like someone dropped a lit match in a mega fireworks factory. The clip exploded on X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and whatever Telegram threads political junkies whisper in, and suddenly everyone from grandpas in Texas to liberal arts majors in Brooklyn was watching Jack Black's face get melted in real time by a woman half his size and twice his sharpness. Hashtags flew faster than fact checkers could keep up. Karoline kills Jack, mega queen returns, char Jack Black out. Clippy got clapped, and the original video of her response passed 10 million views in under 2 hours. The Fox News YouTube channel had to throttle its servers, while Reddit's political forums nearly crashed, debating whether Karoline had just ended Jack Black's career or simply reminded him he's no longer the king of tenacious anything. Meanwhile, the liberals who had cheered Jack's roast the night before were now scattered like pigeons in a fire drill, trying to do damage control while pretending not to be impressed. A particularly savage meme went viral, a split image of Jack's face from the night before, smug and loud, next to a screen grab of Karoline's icy, devastating stare, caption, when the clown meets the courtroom. Jack's defenders rushed online trying to spin the roast into a misunderstood comedic rant, but it didn't land. It's just comedy, they shouted, but even moderate viewers knew the difference between a joke and a tantrum, especially when you mock someone's accent, their faith, and their marriage in one breath, then hide behind a guitar riff in the next. Karoline hadn't just countered with facts, she dismantled the myth that conservatives couldn't dominate the media stage. Her performance was surgical, no screaming, no notes, no panic, just brutal elegance that made Jack's chaotic antics feel like a middle schooler yelling at his teacher by midnight. Celebrities began chiming in. Elon Musk retweeted the clip with a simple caption. Ben Shapiro declared, "This is how you debate." Even Joe Rogan, yes, Joe said on his podcast, "I've never seen someone dressed like a press secretary lay out a Hollywood icon like a UFC fighter." That was wild. On the other side, Jack Black's PR team scrambled to put out statements, first calling Karoline a coordinated media attack, which backfired because calling a woman a coordinated attack just made her sound even more powerful. Then pivoting to Jack was performing a satirical bit misunderstood by conservative audiences, but no one bought it. Because when you say a woman's praying to cover up political crimes and compare her to a puppet on national television then get smoked live by said woman's boss's spokeswoman, well, good luck spinning that. The morning shows had a field day. Fox and Friends played the clip 5 times before breakfast. CNN clearly panicked, invited a panel of 4 grim-faced liberals who all tried to claim Jack's roast was symbolic performance art meant to spark debate. MSNBC showed only a clip of Karoline's smile, then cut away before her words dropped, but the damage had been done. Karoline Leavitt had become the new face of fearless conservatism, not by quoting Trump but by embodying everything they said. Gen Z couldn't be poised, informed, deadly under pressure, and unshakably loyal. She didn't just survive the ambush, she flipped it into a coronation. Jack Black meanwhile went radio silent. No tweets, no Insta stories. His TikTok muted. The only sound from his end was the echo of laughter, not from a crowd but from America watching him eat his own roast. Someone on Fortune found an old interview clip of Jack talking about how comedy should punch up not down and played it next to his Melania comments. The contrast was brutal. It was like watching a priest caught shoplifting holy water, and that's when the talk shows came calling, not for Jack but for Karoline. Within 24 hours she'd been invited to appear on Greg Gutfeld, the Megyn Kelly Show, Jordan Peterson's podcast, and even an email inquiry from The View, which her office allegedly laughed at for 5 straight minutes before deleting. Inside the White House, Trump reportedly burst into laughter watching the clip and told aides she's got more spine than half the Senate. Stephen Miller texted, "I don't know how you just did that, but you did." Newsmax called it the most surgical takedown of a Hollywood leftist since Clint Eastwood talked to a chair. And the donations, oh the donations. Conservative PACs saw a sudden spike in Gen Z engagement. Karoline was now trending not just as Trump's spokeswoman but as a cultural weapon. The merch followed fast. She didn't blink. T-shirts, Clippy got clapped, mugs and bumper stickers that read Press Secretary Assassin Queen. Meanwhile, Jack's brand took a hit, now down 17% in online sales overnight. YouTube flooded with parody remixes of Karoline's speech layered over Jack Black's School of Rock clips. One particularly cruel edit played her final line, "America just blinked over Jack getting kicked in the face in Nacho Libre." Even liberal-leaning comedy sites like The Onion struggled to defend him, instead opting for vague headlines like "Man learns mocking First Lady doesn't end well." It was clear that in one night Karoline had shifted the power dynamics of political pop culture. No longer were conservatives the ones playing defense in late-night arenas. Karoline had entered the lion's den, stared down the jester, and left the studio with his crown in her bag. She didn't just win an argument, she changed the narrative. And Jack, he was still reeling, locked in a room with PR agents and regret, wondering how his spontaneous roast turned into a nationwide humiliation reel. And the funniest part, Karoline didn't yell, she didn't rage, she smiled, she held her ground, and she let the crowd and the country undo the rest. But as the next day dawned and the headlines rolled in, one question remained: would Jack Black try to fire back, or had he finally realized that when you swing at the queen, you better not miss? By noon the next day the damage was undeniable. Jack Black's public image, once this lovable rock star turned comedian turned Netflix darling, had been run through the cultural shredder and left dangling like a used napkin at a Trump rally. And as the backlash raged on, his team made one of the most catastrophic decisions in modern PR history. They let Jack tweet. The post went live at exactly 12:01 p.m. Typed in what looked like angry lowercase from the backseat of a black SUV in full retreat mode: "It's sad to see people so afraid of jokes. I've always stood for freedom of speech, even if it hurts. Snowflakes. Comedy is meant to push boundaries. If you can't take the heat, maybe don't wear the hat." The tweet had everything: deflection, sarcasm, and a thinly veiled jab at Karoline's MAGA ties, and it landed like a balloon at a porcupine convention. Within seconds, conservative X accounts exploded with mockery. Did Clippy just tweet through the trauma? One user wrote, "Freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences, Jack." Another clapped back, "Also, what boundaries were you pushing? The ones between satire and middle school bullying." But what really sent the tweet spiraling into viral oblivion was Karoline's response. She waited 3 hours, long enough for the tweet to make its rounds, get screen capped, memed, and missed on cable news. Then at precisely 3:15 p.m. she posted a single image, a freeze frame of Jack's stunned face from the Hannity stage, his mouth open mid-failure, with a caption underneath in bold surfy font: "Boundaries pushed, career not so much. No tags, no hashtags, just a surgical strike delivered with the kind of precision you usually associate with Navy SEALs and ruthless Twitter queens." It got 500,000 likes in under an hour. CNN tried to save face by inviting Jack for a redemption interview, which turned into a masterclass in deflection and sitting in a gray blazer that looked 2 sizes too big, or maybe his ego had finally deflated. Jack stared into the camera with tired eyes and tried to sound philosophical. "Look, I respect her," he said slowly, each word tasting like vinegar. "She stood her ground, but I stand by what I said. We need to be able to joke about public figures. We can't let politics make us humorless robots." The interviewer, clearly sensing the flop, shifted uncomfortably. "But Jack, people aren't mad because you made a joke. They're mad because you mocked someone's faith, marriage, and voice, then acted like it was brave." Jack blinked hard, his face twitching just enough to betray the panic behind the wise artist persona. "I mean, sure, I went hard, but you've got to admit she's a public figure. If you step into the spotlight, expect the roast." Unfortunately for Jack, Karoline was already ahead of him. That same hour she posted a clip from the CNN interview edited like a movie trailer, complete with dramatic strings and slow zooms. It opened with Jack saying, "We need to joke about public figures," then cut to a montage of his weakest lines followed by her knockout punches. The title of the video, "The Roast That Roasted Back," it trended on YouTube within 90 minutes. Passed 2 million views and inspired a full-blown TikTok trend where users reenacted Karoline's lines while dressed as historical queens. Elizabeth of Fern, Cleopatra, even Joan of Arc holding a Fox News mic. But the real nail in the coffin came during Karoline's surprise return to Hannity that night, dressed again in red, standing behind the same desk where she'd scorched Jack 24 hours earlier. She looked calm, collected, and just a little amused. Hannity grinned, clearly enjoying this more than most sporting events. "You didn't have to come back," he joked. "He's already halfway buried." Karoline smiled, tilting her head slightly. "I just came to finish what he started." The audience held. "People keep saying this is about comedy," she continued, turning serious. "But let's be honest, Jack Black wasn't being a comedian. He was being a coward with a microphone. Real comedy punches up. What he did was take cheap shots at a woman who didn't fit his Hollywood fantasy, married to a strong man, proud of her faith and not afraid to fight back. That's not bravery, that's projection." She paused, letting the words marinate. "I didn't clap back because I was offended. I clapped back because someone needed to remind him and all the people watching that political disagreement doesn't give you a free pass to be disgusting, and if he's going to hide behind just joking, maybe he should remember what happens when the jokes is on him." The crowd roared. Hannity leaned over, whispering, "You sure you're not running for something?" She laughed. "Not yet." Meanwhile, Jack Black's silence on Twitter was deafening for a guy who once sang love ballads to tacos and danced half-naked on stage. The sudden disappearance was louder than any comeback. Hollywood blogs started whispering, was Jack off the political circuit for good? A BuzzFeed headline declared Karoline Leavitt just ended Jack Black's political comedy career with one sentence. Even Variety, trying to stay neutral, published an editorial titled, "When a White House Spokeswoman Out Comedies a Comedian." The Atlantic was harsher. "This wasn't a debate, it was a cultural execution, and it wasn't just media." Big donors noticed. The PAC reportedly approached Karoline the next day about a Senate-run. Conservative influencers began reposting her every line, analyzing her like a political sniper who just scored her biggest hit. A meme went viral featuring Karoline's face on a Mortal Kombat screen with the words "Finish him" blinking above Jack Black's head. And yet through it all, Karoline stayed classy. No ranting, no victory laps, just quiet, calculated presence, because for her it wasn't about humiliating Jack, it was about resetting the rules, telling every late-night hack, washed-up celebrity and self-important activist that if you step out of line and attack someone's dignity, especially with the fake armor of jokes, someone like her will be waiting, and she won't just respond, she'll make sure the whole country's watching when she does. And Jack, well, he's still trending, just not for the reason he hoped. By the time the weekend rolled around, Jack Black had become less of a celebrity and more of a case study, a living, wheezing cautionary tale about what happens when you confuse clout with clarity and try to turn a live audience into your therapist. Karoline Leavitt, meanwhile, didn't just walk away from the Hannity stage, she moonwalked into a whole new political tier, her heels clicking on marble as every conservative outlet anointed her the new voice of righteous destruction. And the irony, it wasn't even her plan. She hadn't walked into that studio aiming to torch a celebrity icon, but when Jack Black tried to roast Melania's accent, demean Trump supporters, and humiliate her marriage like he was still the quirky guitar guy from 2005, she turned the whole thing into an accidental comedy funeral. The fallout was immediate. Monday morning, conservative Twitter crowned her with a new nickname, the press secretary of punishment. One meme showed her with a gavel standing over Jack's crumpled Tenacious D poster like a judge who'd finally ruled on cringe. "You just got levited." The caption read, and it caught on like wildfire. Fox Business ran a segment titled "The Day Comedy Died," and Karoline did CPR on common sense while MSNBC attempted damage control with a panel awkwardly trying to explain why roasting Melania's foreign accent was technically not xenophobic. Too late, the nation had picked sides. TikTok creators stitched Jack's meltdown with Karoline's mic drop and theatrical edits, Fireball's theme songs, even Minecraft parodies. One teenager with 2 million followers posted a clip of her saying, "You mock my faith, I pray for strength," over an animated battle scene. Views 10 million in under 12 hours. Meanwhile, Jack's team tried to pivot, suggesting he go on a podcast to clarify his stance. Bad idea. He showed up with sunglasses and doors open with a forced chuckle, then muttered, "The Trump cult just doesn't get satire." And just like that, another round of backlash dropped like a sledgehammer from the heavens. Even Hollywood elites began to backpedal. One C-list actor tweeted, "Love Jack, but that was messy." Another deleted a post praising him after Karoline's CNN rebuttal clip started trending. Even among liberals, whispers grew louder. "She made him look bitter and slow and way out of touch." It was a generational collapse. The 81-year-old comedic force crushed not by policy but by poised preparation, and a woman who didn't flinch when faith, love, and loyalty were turned into punchlines. But the most brutal part, Karoline never gloated. She didn't take victory laps, didn't dance on digital graves, didn't sell merch or drop cringy slogans. Instead, she quietly returned to the White House podium. Answered policy questions with the same sharp discipline she brought to the Hannity stage and made it clear that wasn't a stunt, that was who she is. One young reporter nervously asked during a press briefing, "Miss Leavitt, do you regret responding to Jack Black?" She smiled gently this time and said, "I don't regret standing up when something's wrong. That's not political, that's personal." That line alone was clipped, shared, and turned into a TikTok audio used by nurses, veterans, and working moms, posting selfies with captions like, "I stand for my family." Just like Karoline, it wasn't just a viral moment, it was a cultural shift, one where boldness beat buzzwords, where sincerity outlasted sarcasm, and where a woman in her 20s married to a man twice her age weaponized every insult about her life into a bulletproof shield. Jack Black said she married for money. She showed the country what integrity looks like when it's mocked on TV and still refuses to flinch. He mocked her prayers. She turned it into a sermon for millions who'd been called weak for believing in something bigger. He mocked her age, her role, her voice. She responded with facts, calm fury, and a straight shot of dignity that made viewers wonder if maybe, just maybe, decency is the real rebellion in today's America. And here's the twist no one saw coming. After the dust settled and the memes faded and Jack disappeared into another streaming deal to rebuild, guess who the networks called? Karoline, not to defend herself but to guest host a headline, to talk policy, not punchlines, because people weren't just curious about how she demolished a celebrity. They wanted to know what else she had to say, and that's the real win. That's the hidden power behind every "you're just a puppet" insult thrown her way, because now when she steps onto a stage or into a press room, she's not just Trump's Gen Z voice, she's the woman who turned humiliation into a highlight reel, who showed America what happens when you try to shame someone with real backbone. And folks, if you're still watching this story unfold, here's your moment to speak up. To drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? Are you with Team Karoline? Should Jack try another comeback or just quietly invest in a sandwich shop in Idaho? Hit that like button if you think Karoline Leavitt just gave a master class in how to defend your values under pressure. Smash subscribe so you don't miss the next political showdown, because if this woman's on screen, you know something is about to go down. And remember, in a world full of scripted outrage and celebrity tantrums, sometimes the most radical thing you can do is not laugh, it's speak loudly, clearly, and without apology, just like Karoline. See you in the next one.